Every D2 Hunter player has their preferred way to play and their preferred exotic armor. But what does your favorite exotic armor say about you? Wonder no more. Hi, my name is Fallout, and subscribe to my channel because I told you to. If today's video gets enough likes, I'll do one for Warlock and Titan too. And with that, why don't we dive right in? Knucklehead Radar. You enjoy the simple things in life and are probably a not complicated person. You've never gotten involved in an argument on Twitter or Reddit about stompies or the movement skill gap because you couldn't give less than a about any of that at all. You're a high-impact pulse rifle or sniper main who would rather hang back at the back of the map and lay down cover fire than dirty your hands on the front line. That's for dumb aping titans. Celestial Nighthawk. Nighthawk mains fall under one of two categories. Either you're a PvE only player who enjoys non-complicated build crafting and big burst damage, or you are all in on the fashion endgame and love the Hawk because it looks badass. If the latter, you have spent a lot of time making outfits for your hunter to look hot, and you love taking group photos with your raid or fire team to show off that drip. If you're a PvP player who mains the Nighthawk, I'd tell you that you're the mayor of Crazy Town, but you wouldn't hear me anyway because the voices in your head are too loud. Foetracer. You are not a trend follower and definitely march to the beat of your own drum. You're pretty sure that more people would actually love the Foetracer in D2 if they bothered to give it a chance, yet at the same time, you hope no one ever does, so there's no shot at your under-the-radar exotic ever becoming too popular. You're not necessarily happy with the new AE system in D2, but you try to build into it as best you can and enjoy jumping over players in PvP almost as much as you did back when you were a stompy main. Graviton Forfeit. You're a PvP main and love taking advantage of camo every opportunity you get, but you can't quite bring yourself to stoop to the same level as the average Gyrfalcon user. After all, those Gyrfalcon mains are just crutch camo users, but you? Oh no. A sophisticated upper echelon invis boy. If you grew up playing Halo, you always rushed the camo power-up instead of the overshield, and your hunter is likely decked out in edgy Hot Topic armor with dark shaders to make that purple on your helmet really look intimidating. Wormhusk Crown. You are a PvP main with thick skin. You know how strong insta-health regen is, and you also know it would probably be better for the game if it were just completely removed entirely. But that ain't gonna stop you from rolling around on the floor every 14 seconds like this is a goddamn game of Dark Souls. You first used Wormhusk years ago when it was super strong and haven't been able to move on since. Much like Destiny players who couldn't bring themselves to unequip traction on their boots back in the day when that was the thing, you've become addicted to the health regen. Much like the relationship between Gollum and the Ring, you both hate and love the crown. Assassin's Cowl. You've actually put a lot of work into your Assassin's Cowl build, and it shows when you play. You're good at PvP, and even though you love to take advantage of camo, you'd rather earn it with a throwing knife or a powered arc melee than to roll around on the floor like a pleb void hunter. You feel that your exotic takes skill to use well, and you take pride in that fact. You're also glad that the exotic you main looks fairly badass, and you're moderately interested in your hunter's fashion game. Mask of Bakris. You wear the Mask of Bakris for one of two reasons. Either you love to teleport in PvP and break the ankles of your opponents at close range, or you're an edgelord who thinks the design of the helmet is amazing and you can't bring yourself to equip anything else. You watch a lot of shonen anime, and if you play D&D, you're the player who comes to the table with a gritty 12-page backstory explaining that your lone wolf rogue grew up alone on the rough streets without a family. Blight Ranger. Arc Hunter is your name, and trolling people in PvP with Whirlwind Guard is your game. Nothing makes you happier than making another player look like an idiot in Crucible with a well-timed deflect. You probably have a lot of great clips saved of you bouncing back Jotun shots and Nova Bombs, and you love it when other players pop their super because you've been waiting all game to counter with yours. If you play PvE, you prefer having fun over popular meta builds, and you will make orbs for your team till the cows come home. Young Ahamkara's Spine. A PvP enjoyer, you know that young Ahamkara is much stronger in PvP than most people realize. You are ecstatic each and every time you get a trip mine kill, whether you show it or not, and you know the best spots on every map to put your trip mine. Very frequently, you'll get a kill in PvP with a trip mine you completely forgot about, but you'll be damned if you tell your teammates it was anything but planned. You're a fan of True Vanguard, and if you happen to play any other video game at all that features them, you will equip and use proximity mines if they're available 100% of the time. Mechaneer's Tricksleeves. You're a sidearm main, but a special breed. Odds are you've been using sidearms long before the Season 18 buff, and you actually kind of hate that Bungie buffed sidearms so hard because now you're surrounded by bandwagon Drang users. You frequently rock double sidearm in PvP, probably have a godroll kill clip lonesome on your hunter at all times, and you love cross-mapping people with Forerunner. Aeon Swift. You're an endgame PvE player, and you take pride in the fact that you've built your Guardian to help out the team. You run a lot of Grandmaster Nightfalls and raids, and you know exactly what you're doing each and every time. You might not be a top 1% speedrunner, but you've definitely watched many YouTubers like Aeon do fast runs of your favorite endgame PvE activities. Your Aeon is fitted with Sect of Insight, and to be completely honest, you can't even remember at this point what the other two options even do, because they don't generate heavy ammo, so f*** them. Your teammates know they can count on you holding your own in PvE activities and are happy that they'll always have a steady flow of heavy coming their way thanks to you. Shonobu's Vow. You're a PvP player over the age of 30 who plays on controller. Even though Shonobu's hasn't been meta for a minute, you don't really care. Movement tech, scrims. These things have never been on the list of things you really care about, and you'd rather stick your head in an oven than see another PvP main on Twitter talk shit about people who play controller. You may be fairly annoying to fight against in PvP, but you never engage in community drama, and mainly you mind your own business. Good for you. Sealed Ahamkara Grasps. You take pride in the fact that you're a batshit build crafter and how you're probably only one of 13 people in the entire meta unironically rocking the exotic that you wear. You have wacky PvP strats, and you love listening to mad scientist players like Cami Cakes go into the nitty-gritty of their latest insane rumble build. Shards of Galanor. You're a PvE player who doesn't like to overthink build crafting and would rather just nuke one target with wild heavy burst damage. You're pissed off that Bungie decided to nerf Blade Barrage, but at the same time, you kinda get it. You don't always play Mayhem, but shutting down enemy roaming supers makes you giggle with joy. Oathkeeper. You are a die-hard bow main, and you absolutely love Le Monarch and wish it had more exotic skins. Anytime there's an argument on Twitter or Reddit or the forums about how bows are too strong or too annoying to fight against, you will chime in about how they're not that bad and that hand cannon sniper mains just like to complain. You often go into PvP with the goal of having a team loadout with your fire team that somehow allows you to one-tap enemies at full health with the Monarch, and you chortle smugly to yourself each and every time you do. Liar's Handshake. You're a PvE main, and you probably have several clips saved on your PC of you soloing Riven with extreme melee abuse. You've probably soloed every dungeon in the game as a hunter, and your vault contains multiple god roll shotguns with the perk 1-2 punch. Even though you still love the power of the Liar, you wish that Bungie would restore it to its former glory for the lulz. Deep down though, you know Bungie never will. Khepri's Sting. You're a Trials main, and you love to snipe. You give good callouts in PvP and have many mental flowcharts of where to use your wallhack vision on each map depending on which side you've spawned on, and then where to go and what to do depending on where the enemy team is moving. You're kind of a nightmare to fight with the right teammates, and you don't understand why more people don't rock Khepri. Athrys' Embrace. You are an analytical son of a bitch who lives for getting insane ricochet knife kills in PvP. Sure, winning is fun, but in your book, if you've managed to completely confuse or outright embarrass an enemy player with your throwing knife, that is the true endgame for you. You've tried to learn the best wall bounce knife angles on every PvP map and get excited at any opportunity to get a silly kill. You have many clips saved of you throwing knives off into the night only to get a kill in the feed 5 seconds later. You come from a long background of playing Call of Duty and always tried to get the final kill of the game by yeeting a throwing knife, even if it meant losing the game if the score was close. Renewal Grasps. You first used the Renewal back when Stasis Hunters were destroying the meta, but you always enjoyed the tactical benefits of the Duskfield rather than the brute force of Shatter Diving. You disliked challenging people 1v1 without damage reduction having your back, and you got slightly giddy when Bungie announced that your playstyle would be getting a moderate buff in Season 19. However, you quietly hope that it doesn't get too good because you want to keep your playstyle low-key. Caliban's Hand. You're a fun person. You love making enemies explode, and you do it every chance you get. PvE, PvP, doesn't matter. Solar is your jam, and the knife nade combo is the most fun you've ever had playing D2. If you play a lot of PvP, it's mainly 6v6. Your favorite D2 YouTuber is Cool Guy, and you have multiple saved clips of you getting entire team wipes in control by blowing up half the room. Raiden Flux. You're kind of a rare breed. You love the Arcstaff Hunter, and shockingly, you not only don't mind playing Gambit, but you're actually pretty good at it. Nuking the Primeval is something you enjoy doing, and you think Drifter is a funny character. Anytime you do a strike or any activity with a big beefy endgame PvE boss, you always hold your super for the very final encounter so you can free the beast all over it. Lucky Raspberry. You definitely know that there are other better hunter exotics out there, but you don't really care. You've been using the Raspberry for a long time, and you know what? It works for you. No complicated builds, nothing fancy, just straight up Arc 3.0, and it fits you just fine. Dragon Shadow. You are a PvP main who really hopes that Bungie never wises up and decides to look closely at your beloved chest piece under a microscope because you know how beast it truly is in the right hands. Odds are you're a sniper or a slug shotgun main. Your playstyle might be straightforward, but you always deliver. When Stompy mains had their worlds collapsing all around them with nerfs and overall sandbox changes, you quietly watched from the sidelines with a big grin, knowing your exotic was safe. For now, anyway. Ophidia Spathe. You know what's better than sex? Knives. And you've got 2 of them. Your friends are probably telling you there's a lot of other ways you could take better advantage of the hunter throwing knife. But f those people, they're not holding 2 knives. The armor also looks really cool, and you either own a pet snake or think that snakes are dope. Sixth Coyote. You are an invis hunter main and you love to dodge. You're the first to challenge any lane in PvP because if there is even a hint that someone might be hardscoping you, you will octuple somersaults out of the room quicker than an Olympic gymnast on a caffeine binge. If you play PvE, you are perma-married to Gambler's Dodge, just to make sure there's never a chance you run out of smoke bombs or your precious ability to go camo. Gwisin Vest. You're a spec blade hunter, and either it's never occurred to you to simply go into your menu and equip Gwisin real quick before popping your super in PvP, then switching back after, or it has occurred to you and you're just too lazy to do it. Oh, what's that? You're telling me you already do that normally? Well, then you aren't a Gwisin Vest main because you only wear it 1% of the time. Get bro. Raiju's Harness. You're a PvP player and a Trials tryhard. While you don't wear it 100% of the time, it is your true love. You beam with delight when it's time for you to squat down in a corner, open your menu, and de-equip whatever boring-ass neutral game armor you have on and put on your real main squeeze. You'll either bully the other team with your Whirlwind Guard or simply quick pop near the homies to get them charged with light for high energy fire, and you're fine with either option. Either way, much like an overly anal car owner who prides themselves on being able to stop filling their ride with gas at the exact right moment to not go over a certain dollar amount, you know the exact right moment to early shut off your super each and every time. Omnioculus. You are one of the following: either a PvE player who enjoys camoing in difficult endgame content, or more likely, you're a PvP player and an absolute bastard of a person. Despite other appealing exotic armor options on the table, you know just how good the Omni is and have no intention of putting on anything else. You, at the very least, dive down near your teammates when playing Trials to ensure all 3 of you can get camo. But we both know you don't do it out of the goodness of your heart. You do it so you can replenish your smoke bombs at the same time. If you could get even more DR by pushing one of your teammates off of a cliff, you'd probably do it. Gyrfalcon's Hauberk. If you're a PvP player, you're probably really salty at Bungie for what they did to your beloved exotic. You loved going camo and getting a free damage boost, and it wasn't even that strong. You tell others and yourself repeatedly. If you're a PvE player, you are now laughing all the way to the bank as you equip the collective obligation and make the entire room drown in purple. Eventually, you'll get around to writing the PvP players a thank you note. After all, they're responsible for the buffing of your now favorite exotic. Lucky Pants. You're a hand cannon maining PvP player who respects movement gap exotics like Stompies and what have you, but you would rather be a goddamn space cowboy. You swap weapons in PvP a lot, or at the very least, try to micromanage swapping as best you can, making sure you always are ready to whip out your hand cannon and grab that hot accuracy boost. It's not 100%, but there's a high chance that you use the last word a lot, despite the fact that it's not as good as it used to be. When you played Fallout New Vegas, you always hummed along when the Big Iron song popped up on your Pip-Boy. Ophelius Rig. You're a PvE player, and you're not lazy. You're a proud hunter set in their ways. Have endgame PvE builds evolved into complex ways to generate orbs, elemental wells, and more? Of course they have, but f that noise. Tether is like you, old school. Complicating things is for suckers. You're here to fire off that tether, get that debuff, link up the enemies, make a few orbs, and get that super energy back. Anything more complex than that is for nerds. Stompies. You are a diehard PvP player, and no matter what meta changes Bungie throws your way, you will face it with a hand cannon permanently glued to your hip and maybe a chip on your shoulder. You take literally any opportunity to mash the jump button when going through a low ceiling hallway to get any kind of a speed boost that you can, and you take pride in your movement ability. You wish you knew exactly who at Bungie was responsible for creating the AE system so you could potentially dox them on Twitter, and anyone who doesn't want Stompies to be restored to their original glory is either a boomer or a Gemini Jester. You are a PvP player who understands the power of radar manipulation and how much the average Guardian overly relies on their radar for information. You would rather punch your own mother in the face than go into Trials without both 100 mobility utility and double utility kickstart, and you really wish that Drewski would return to making YouTube content. Frosties. Every time Bungie comments about how they want to make sure the combat in Destiny becomes more weapon focused, you chuckle to yourself. Sure they do. Not only do you know better, but you've abandoned the possibility that you're ever going to get into heaven. And with that in mind, the Frosties have never left your feet. It doesn't really matter what class you play. Revenant, Gunslinger, those are all just labels to you. Your core MO never changes. Take whatever ability you're vibing with that day on the calendar and make your enemy swallow it whole, just the way you do with your self-esteem every day. The Bombardiers. Looking at how many other hunters out there are running meta exotics makes you sick. They're taking the easy path, while ballers like you are taking part in a long-lost ritual to the masses, having some goddamned fun. And hey, you're the first to admit it, they don't always work in PvP, but when they do, you've pretty much just embarrassed the other guy on the level of breaking somebody's ankles on the b-ball court, and you ride that high all freaking day. In PvE, they're fun because they're versatile. You're fairly positive that if any other hunter main just tried Bombardiers for a day, they would probably have fun trolling people, but they're just too glued to the meta to try. Star Eater Scales. Not only are you a PvE player, you're the PvE player. You enjoy raiding, and you have a group that you routinely raid with, often weekly, until the content drought hits. You have weird inside jokes with your raid team, and you do things like burger callouts for Oryx. You love build crafting and numbers, and maximizing DPS is the name of the game to you. You've got multiple endgame PvE loadouts saved on Dim, and you're always happy to lend loadout advice to anyone on the team who even hints that they're in the middle of putting together a build. Your thirst for milking out every last bit of DPS will never be quenched, but that's fine by you. Radiant Dance Machines. You are a non-existent person, a true phantom. Are you even out there? Am I talking to the void? I don't think I'll ever truly know, because I don't really actually know for sure if there's anyone out there non-ironically maining the Radiant Dance Machines going into 2023. To the 4 players out there who do, all of your friends probably make fun of you for it, while you insist that they're actually better than people give them credit for. And by friends, I mean the imaginary ones you have in your head, because your real friend group kept trying to twist your arm to take off the Radiant Dance Machines, so you broke off all contact with them, and now they all play Apex. But hey, you look cool, and that's what matters. Kinda. Let me know down in the comments section what you'd want next, a video on Warlock or Titan exotics and why. Remember to click subscribe if you're new, and I appreciate you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on stream.